Corn Junkies, this is the first movie review of 2021.
Yeah.
The first.
Well, we did the reviews of our favourite films of 2020.
But the first review of a feature film. And this feature film that we're reviewing is Pieces of a Woman, starring Vanessa Kirby. And we can't ignore the sort of controversy. It also stars Shia LaBeouf. And of course, Shia LaBeouf is currently in a bit of a kind of tete-a-tete situation with FKA Twigs and Sia, potentially in terms of his treatment of women that he's been in relationships with. So that really, you know, we were huge Shia LaBeouf fans until that, which has really obviously upset the apple cart. So
well, our girls have huge crushes on him. And when we said there's no way they'd missed a film with him in it, and they refused to watch this because they feel so strongly about the accusations.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, a sort of as a show of support to the rest of the cast, the director, and actually Vanessa Kirby, because I'd heard about this film coming through a good 6-9 months ago, and I was very excited about it. I heard that she was giving a performance of a lifetime.
We were massive fans of hers in The Crown. She was the first Margaret before Helen Bonham Carter, and we spent that whole series just gobsmacked by her brilliance. We were so excited about her. We thought, wow, this is. You know, when you first see a really brilliant actor, I remember, who's the guy who ended up playing Doctor Who? And you remember when we first saw him in the theatre? Matt Smith, and we went, he's going to be big, this guy. And that's what we felt about her very much. Yeah,
definitely. And so it seemed a crying shame to avoid it on the premise of Shia LaBeouf, and then all those other people involved with it would lose out from us reviewing it even. So we have to park the Shia LaBeouf element to the side for now, because we're just going to look at it as a film. And it's about a subject that's very close to our hearts. It's essentially pivots around a home birth that Vanessa Kirby's character and Shia LaBeouf are a partnership. They're not yet married. Are they married? No, they're not. They're having a baby, and the film starts incredibly dramatically with an almost, it's not actually a continual shot, but it's shot and edited very subtly in a way to give the illusion of it being one continuous shot. For about 15 to 20 minutes of a birth.
And that, I think it's one of my favourite openings of a film.
Yeah, I think it is mine too.
Because obviously, like you say, it was very close to our heart, having had both our kids here in the house. And we really were desperate that it would be a true portrayal.
Yeah.
I have to say ours was a lot more dramatic.
Ours was more dramatic in a weird way.
But oh my God, I mean, Shia LaBeouf, obviously a very troubled person he's admitted himself done some terrible things. But my God, that guy can act. I mean, what we witnessed there was true intimacy to the point where you would really think that these two were a couple.
Well, I kept thinking she must have been pregnant.
Well,
I believe she was going through this. There was no sense of an actor performing.
Yeah, there was no performing. They were in it. I suspect that they did a lot of, and maybe a lot of that was actually, just, what's it called when you don't have a script?
Improvise.
Yeah, I felt a lot of it was improvised. But with a good script and two really good actors, of course, that's what you want.
With a good script, but I was also feeling that I absolutely felt as actors they must have been in on numerous births and got in numerous scenarios, because there were moments in that scene where you're right, Shia LaBeouf was absolutely, their synchronicity together and lack of synchronicity actually, which is a key part of being in labour, because men often feel like they're a spare prick, literally.
Absolutely brilliant.
I thought that was great, but also the way in which she went through. I thought there was a moment where she kept belching.
I loved that.
And the lack of sort of vanity around that.
And him not noticing.
Him not noticing, but her in her eyes knowing that she didn't want him to be repulsed by it. There were so many layers of what was going on.
It reminded me so much of the point in my birth with Maddie, where I suddenly went to flower pot.
Yes.
And Mark just came round, swung round with this flower pot, and I just threw up into it.
Yeah.
We just stood there. We're sick.
Yeah. And I was also struggling to kind of empty a flooding water bath or water birthing unit. And that scene where he goes to run a bath and you think, oh my God. So anyway, so this opening is I think it just captured so completely that
the man, that sort of slight edginess, but they're wanting to be totally in control, and yet they're utterly useless, and yet they're so vital for all those little fillers.
It's funny, isn't it?
And again, it reminded me of when because we did hypnobirthing, and you had to do the hands on my shoulders and counting, and we've been doing this for hours. And you said, I need to go for a wee, and I just said to my homeopath, bucket. And she went and got a bucket, and he had to still hold my shoulders and pee into a bucket in front of my friend. And I never see that kind of intimacy in these, in any birth.
It's animalistic in the most beautiful sense of the word.
And I think it captured that, and that's why I was just, I just loved it. I loved the beginning of it. Loved it.
And I thought, from a directorial perspective, in terms of pacing, I thought the scene was quite realistic. You felt it progressed a bit too quickly.
Yeah, I would have liked more of a sense of that never-endingness that comes. It was very surprising to me, that. But then maybe I'm bringing too much of my own experience. I think so, because I think everybody wants their birth portrayed, don't they?
I was really struck by how well they hit the different sections of a birth, or a home birth. And so suffice it to say, the birth kind of moves on and becomes incredibly traumatic. And I think we have to put a disclaimer in here now in terms of anyone who is considering home births or knows someone's going to have a home birth. What
I would say is, it's not a spoiler, everyone knows that she loses the baby. Yeah. But the point is, she loses this baby and would have lost this baby. Sometimes babies just do die. It's the saddest thing. And that's actually what is
discussed,
and that's what's found to be proven in the court, isn't it? So this baby would have died wherever she was. So
it wasn't because of the home birth.
It wasn't because she was a home birthed, but and so I'm really aware that a lot of women now are having a home birth that might not have thought of it in a million years, but because we're in this pandemic, they are doing it because they're so desperate to have their partner with them. And I would 100%, even though my first birth was very difficult, recommend it.
But would you recommend not watching this if you were pregnant, though? It's very traumatic.
Well,
I was crying. Can I just say...
It was more traumatic for you than it was for me, strangely.
Well, because I tell you the weird thing about going through any birth, I think as the partner, when you're not going through it, you are going through your own out-of-body experience, literally, because it's your body going through this amazing process. The helplessness as a partner, when even you become an integral part of it, I thought, again, Shia LaBeouf played that really well. Wanting to overhelp, crowding out, trying to step back, feeling clumsy, feeling useless, feeling useful, being crucial, but not knowing how you're crucial. The most unlikeliest parts of what you're doing suddenly proving to be absolutely vital. And then when it starts to turn and go wrong, I have not seen on film, outside of myself, reliving it as a memory, an absolute representation of the fear, panic, disorientation, desperation I had to get, only because you were being in a home birth yourself, of wanting to get you somewhere quickly to solve what felt like a crisis. And
it was very similar because you and the midwife for us was trying to get me to go to hospital. God. And when she said, I'm not going to hospital in the film, it's like, my God, that could have been
that was
me.
You. It was, and I was just like, oh my God, this is awful.
But babies are born in hospitals every day with breathing problems, and Maddie was born like that, and she was blue, wasn't she, for a bit? But she came round, so that was really reminiscent of our birth. But yeah.
And then so that's really almost the first third of the film, and then really the rest of the film, if you think it's called Pieces of a Woman.
It's grief. It's about grief.
It's about grief, and it's about the pieces of this woman, Vanessa Kirby, the woman, pulling herself together or not pulling herself together.
Millions of pieces. I found it very painful to watch.
It was.
Because this is about, yes, it was a baby, but this is about grief, and anybody that's ever lost anybody will find this, I think, very moving and maybe triggering for some people, because she's desolate. True meaning of the word desolate. And she inhabits it so completely, this actress. She really is. I would be amazed if she's not nominated for the Oscar.
I think she has to be. She's already been talked about it. She's been talked about it in Carey Mulligan in terms of Promising Young Woman. Two very strong films about very strong women characters, obviously. But yeah, Vanessa Kirby is being talked about re-award season, and I thought what she achieved was something that she achieved, that sort of, when they say before an earthquake there's a sort of still silence that goes across the land. and then it hits.
A breath.
She portrayed the aftermath of a total absence of sound and a sort of total absence. I mean, it wasn't, she was emotional, obviously, but it was the absence of emotion too.
I think the deadness.
Yeah.
There was nothing left.
Yeah,
she could feel nothing. And I thought it was a really, I think a big part of what was, for me, that was just so heartbreaking was what happened to their relationship, which is of course what happens to so many relationships when somebody loses a child or any sort of grief, because that numbness that comes in. And
it starts to crumble.
She starts to crumble, but yeah, I mean, it's such a good title for the film because she's fragmented.
Totally.
And it's sharp, and she's not very nice. No. And you can't get near her. No. Nobody can look after her. Nobody can help her. Yeah. And she needs to be stewing in the pain, doesn't she? Yeah. And yeah, I love what then unfolds towards the end, but...
And so, I mean, you go through the process of watching their relationship unravel, and she being much more of a sort of... You feel that she's more academic or intellectual than Shia LaBeouf is much more.
Well, he's from the other side of the tracks.
Other side of the tracks, exactly.
And she's from an extremely wealthy family.
And I thought that one of the most compelling characters, the Ellen Burstyn character, who was Vanessa's mum, and the way she was so good. And there was one scene where she talked to Vanessa Kirby about trying to pull her shit together or pulling herself away from the abyss and not staying in this dark place. Was when she told her own story of her own childhood.
I had no problem with that scene.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was saving that.
I thought that was really powerful.
It wasn't believable to me.
Really? Oh, I found that scene
because
so
she was
powerful.
Telling the story like it was the first time she told that story. It was very odd. The camera never moved over, and obviously it was a directorial decision. But it left me feeling like this was suddenly a person on a stage, and I'd lost the intimacy and the.
Well, that's interesting because this was a stage play.
Oh, well, it was too much of a stage play for me, that bit.
See, I really liked what...
Was it really?
Yeah.
Because that opening scene, it felt like, in a good way, it felt like theatre. I thought, I'm at the theatre, that's what I felt. But no, I felt like, you know, like in a soap opera where they suddenly just pull together all the story to tell you. I thought she did a great job with it, but I thought it was a very lazy scene from the writer and the director.
Oh, I did. Well, you see, I thought Ellen Burstyn played it really well.
No, she did. But she didn't have good tools. I don't think she had good direction. I don't think she had a good script. It was just unbelievable.
But you see, it was really weird that should stand out so much for you, because for me it stood out as the one moment where I didn't think she was necessarily telling it from a kind place. She was just telling... No, but she was telling it from... You could have seen it as tough love and all that kind of stuff. I don't even think it was tough love. I think she was just saying to her, just shake your fucking self out of it. And the brutality that she enacted, both with her, and the brutality that she also enacted with making sure Shia LaBeouf fucked off, you know, all of that, I thought, you know, it was another lesson in how trauma in someone breeds that sort of flint. And whilst you could sort of see, you know, I mean, I thought the resolution of the film, there were moments that were a bit cloyy for me. I thought that was
very cloyy for me.
For you, honestly, I didn't mind that.
Oh, now she's standing up and she's doing a speech. And the thing is, she was the sort of woman that would have told her daughters this many, many times. And it was neither one nor the other. You didn't feel like, oh my God, this is an old woman. And every time she tells this story, she tells it from the beginning like nobody's heard it. Because she was playing it almost also like she had and she hadn't, and it didn't work. It wasn't complex performance. It was one that missed it as far as I was concerned. Okay. She was just on the wrong foot.
Well, interesting, because I felt there were other moments, a couple of beats in the film that I thought didn't work. I thought there's a moment where Shia LaBeouf has a relationship with a certain other character. I didn't believe that for a minute. I just didn't think that would happen. I didn't believe it would happen with that close proximity. I didn't think the woman that he had the affair with would have had the affair. It didn't ring. Do you? I didn't think that rang true at all.
I think it needed padding out. I think it was too scant. Yeah. But I think it was totally believable. She would have just had a shag with her cousin's hot husband, because he was hot. Yeah. She didn't want anything else from him. Like when he wanted her to go off with him, and she was just like, that would be nice. Yeah. She's used him for sex and coke.
Yeah, true. I don't know whether I found that just a little bit too kind of...
I know what you mean.
It was a bit crude and a bit clunky, and I thought the visual metaphor of the bridge was painful. As the film was going, you know, got the metaphor of this bridge, and then Shia LaBeouf's working on a bridge, and then he tells us the story of the bridge. It's like, all right, we're bridging, everyone's bridging relationships. I think all of that aside, if you like, the set dressing, I thought for me the power was at the heart of this film. Almost despite those scenes, still Vanessa Kirby, like an iceberg of complex emotion, just was gliding through this thing. And
she is phenomenal. One of the most exciting new finds for me as an actress. I will be watching everything she does.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely a flawed film, and I, oh God, what about when he starts to, because that's the other thing for us that was so crazy. He was in recovery. We were like, somebody taken our life here.
And it was very strange.
And then when he, oh God, I mean, I love it when he relapses.
Yes.
And he's pouring the drink into the bottle. Now, this is a woman who's been with somebody for 6 years sober, and she's so lost in her grief, or she just doesn't care anymore. And they're both pretending they're not seeing what's going on with you. I mean, the dismantling of the relationship is very hard to watch, actually.
Well, and also for me...
We skipped over it a bit. It was very brutal.
It was very brutal, but also for me, it was going back to how the opening scene took me directly back to a crucial moment in our relationship right at the beginning of Maddie's birth. The whole film, in alcoholic recovery terms, for me, was like a massive what if.
Yeah.
It was a massive what if, how in that second that Maddie was born up there.
Very personal.
Our entire lives could have gone that route. The implications
if we carried on drinking, we'd have been finished.
And
we wouldn't be here.
And who wouldn't have probably doubled down on drinking if we had gone through that awful experience, you know?
Well, because at that time you were still drinking.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
So it was very strange for us, that.
It was like an out-of-body experience.
But you felt they were so in love at the beginning.
Yeah, you did.
And it was just, my heart was broken when they broke up. And you got a sense that, and that moment when she says, I don't know, maybe it's because of your drinking, your sobriety, you know, could that be the thing that killed the baby? They start turning on each other. Oh yeah, very, very, very meaningful, very, very difficult at points for both of us to watch. And it was quite interesting that it was difficult for both of us to watch at different points.
And a huge ethical dilemma in the middle of it, because Vanessa Kirby's character makes the decision to hand the baby, a dead baby, over to science for analysis. And there's that dispute with Shia LaBeouf, there's the dispute with her mother, the grandmother, about not doing that, and her absolutely wanting to be able to do that.
Because she wanted some power back. She wanted some control back. Everything had been taken out of her control. And that was the thing she could control, a decision that she could make for her baby. That's what that was, and I found that heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking.
But the brutality and the reminder of how little power just being a father actually affords you.
No, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, I became a bit obsessed when I was watching that. Is that legal?
Yeah.
Can she just decide to do that without the signature of the father? And I'm probably she could.
Yeah. Well, guys, this is available to stream on Netflix now. Do you want to give a quick sum up on what you give it out of 100?
I don't like this 100. I find it very difficult out.
What you think of it and what you'd give it out of 10?
Oh, it's so hard. It's really, really hard. A friend of mine watched it the other day and hated every section. I've seen that terrible Pieces of a Woman. I was like, are you serious?
I kind of know, but I think parts of it are a bit flimsy and a bit clunky and a bit crude.
And a bit too theatrical.
And a bit, quite theatrical. Even down to like the way their flat fell apart. You could see that starting a new scene. Like you come back to scene 3 and the flat's in disarray and time has passed.
But I quite like that because I'm missing the theatre. And I was sort of really sitting up in my seat at the first long scene with them both, because I was like, I'm at the theatre. Oh my God, this could be in the theatre. So it's really hard for me to this is the hardest film I've ever had to give out of 100 or whatever, because I think a lot of people won't like this film.
Yeah.
So for parts of it, I could give 10 out of 10, but it did have its flaws. It had its flaws. So, but I would be sad if I'd missed seeing this film. So does that make it a 10 out of 10? Because I would want anyone. I think 7 out of 10. And we lost a whole point from the speech from Mama.
Oh, right, yeah, there you go. Contrary to that, I quite like Ellen Burstyn's speech. I think you're right. I think it's Marmite. I think you're either going to really want to see it or really not want to see it. If you're a film fan or a lover of great performances, you almost have to see it for Vanessa Kirby. It's one of those performances that everyone's... Shia's great, but he's shrouded in this awful...
It's a shadow over it.
It's a shadow over it, so I have to kind of park him to the side a bit. I mean, he performs in a way that I expect him to. He's always been very strong. Sort his shit out. Come clean. Do whatever's needed.
When he's dragging her onto bed and trying to have sex with her. It's so real.
Well, but that had sort of other connotations.
Because of what we know, we couldn't watch.
And Vanessa Kirby herself has made a statement that she comes out in support of all women in controlled and controlling relationships.
Has she?
Yeah, she has. So for Vanessa Kirby, you have to see this. She is going to be talked about around award season. It is a staggering performance. Not particularly... for the vast majority of the film, she's silent. She's just making noises or no noises. I mean, she's incredible.
Well, don't say that. I think that could throw people off.
No, but I mean, she's incredibly...
We've seen her moving through her life.
But it is the most astonishing performance, and incredibly captivating, moving, tragic, empowering as well. I mean, without giving away the ending, it's also quite an empowering film. So I would... You said 7 out of 10. I'd give it 7.5 out of 10. So I'd give it slightly more.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.